Making Mastery Learning a Reality One Day at a Time. Here, John Bergman. It's been a while. It's first week of 2022. My school has gone through finals, etc., etc., and I've spent some time over this holiday time rethinking a number of things about how I do mastery. So the biggest thing has been assessment. So at my school, one thing that we require, or they require of me, I guess I should say, is they require me to give a final exam. Now, in a mastery system where students get multiple attempts at mastering content, how did I do that? And so the way I did that is I used our learning management system, and I published versions of the test, thousands of versions. We've talked about earlier in an earlier podcast about how that is done. And then I said, but in this case, just because of test security and all these kinds of things, I'm going to convert it into a paper test, and then they would take a paper test. So all that said, and I graded the tests at the end of the semester, and I was mixed, surprised, happy, and also surprised, unhappy. And I think what's been happening, to be honest with you, is for the score, some students scored very poorly. That's the issue, a few of them. And those who scored very poorly, honestly, my guess is they didn't master the stuff at all. And so I was pretty discouraged as I was thinking about that, this certain group of students. And I was trying to say, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with the system? And the more I think about it, no, it's not the system. But I think the way I've been doing this system in some aspects, particularly in assessments, has been the issue. And so what I think is going on is that there is a way with our system for them to frankly cheat, for them to find ways around, especially in the online system that I was using, for them to game the system by, I had some clues, I couldn't prove it, some things that probably were copied and pasted off the internet, basically. But they didn't understand it. When they were faced with a piece of paper in a very secure testing environment, they flopped big time. So, what am I gonna do? Here's the plan. We'll see how it goes. I'm moving to paper tests. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna still use this system where there's folders of banks of questions, and I'm gonna put that in my learning management system, and I'm gonna make those as practice tests. And I'm gonna just say, tell computer learning management system, print me one test. And then that will be a version that they will take on paper in class for their unit assessments. They still have to get the 80%, et cetera, et cetera. I think that will nip it in the bud. I think there's gonna be some sort of, I don't know, I like to say come to Jesus moments with some of my students, because what is going to happen is that this particular unit that we're studying relies on their information they learned in the last 2 units at the end of the semester. And I think those kids who gamed that system and then scored very poorly, they're gonna have to play a lot of catch up. And so I'm gonna have individual conversations with those who scored very, very poorly. So that's strategy 1. The other strategy I'm gonna do, I'm try something else. Remember, I've talked about this, that I've had different levels of tests, a hard, a medium, or I call it the deep understanding, the clearness and the basic understanding. In one of the units earlier, I said, you need to have at least clear understanding, so there is no basic understanding. But what I did is I wrote banks of questions at different levels of complexity, hard questions, medium questions, and easier questions, if you will. And what I have decided to do in this coming unit, it's a very pivotal unit, and the first half of it is crazy important. It's unit 6, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3. It is the foundation of the rest of our chemistry year. If you don't get that, you're gonna be host. But there's also some nice things that I've taught in the past, I'm calling it 6.4 and 6.5, that would be really nice to know, but not critical in understanding. And so the way I'm gonna write the test for this, again, these are the paper tests, right, is if they get through 6.3 in the allotted period of time, then they can take the basic test. And if they get all the way through 6.5 in the allotted period of time, they could take the hard test. And then there's different point systems on how they will score points. So the key here is I'm gonna differentiate not based on the complexity of the questions, but which sections are covered, if that makes sense. So instead of them all being tested on 6.1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and having some knowledge of each, I would rather, and that's particularly content specific to this unit I'm in, I would rather that every kid master through 6.3, and then the kids who have the ability and can get done in the appropriate amount of time through 6.5, those students will take, if you will, the harder test that contains different content. So those are the big changes I'm making. Other things I'm doing, I'm going to be a little bit more stringent on policies regarding grading. I think I've been too nice. I love my students, I really do. But sometimes they have taken advantage of the mastery system in the sense it's like, well, I can always get it done. And I need to put a little bit more oomph into their oomph. And the hard deadlines help, but I'm going to, philosophically, I'm not sure I totally believe everything I'm about to tell you, but I need to give them some deadlines, because what has happened is that the students have other hard deadlines in other classes, and then they choose to not make this a hard deadline, and they never get around to doing this work, and then they fall inexorably behind. It's this small group of students who keep falling behind and behind and behind, and then some of them more catching up, I think, by being less than honest and integrity and all that stuff. And I think I've got a system to catch that. But anyways, things I want to work on. I'm sitting in my room. If you're watching this video, you know I'm talking about. I'm trying to find a space, physical space, for them to take their tests. Because remember, they're going to be taking their tests in the middle of class, and I need to find a place that is the testing area. I know some teachers who do this. They've taped off a corner of their room, and this is the testing space. And I think I need to do something like that. But I've had some difficulties with this room. I'm recording this right now as Omicron variant is spreading throughout the world. And my gosh, we've got lots of kids out and staff members out because of the Omicron. Hopefully that thing will blow itself out or burn itself out or whatever the word is soon, so that we can get back to that, because we have to now distance, and it's going to be a little more of a challenge. But I know you're all facing the same kinds of things as well. We are living in interesting times, so interesting in the world of education. And my hat goes off to you too, because I know how hard you're working and how difficult it is. Last thing I want to share is that I've gotten 2 new students, brand new students, so it's the beginning of a new semester. They've transferred to our school from another school. And I've met with one of them already. And in my conversation with him is turns out that at his school, they have covered the content in a very different order. So his school covered some things I haven't covered, but his school didn't cover things that I have. So the beauty of the mastery system is that he's going to jump in. I want to put him at the appropriate unit, and I still haven't figured out exactly where that is, but I have a pretty good sense after spending some time with him, is that I think he needs to jump in at X, and he's going to work, asynchronously on what he needs to do to get caught up, if you will, to where his peers are. But there's going to be a place where he's going to come, and his previous learning, he learned this, so he's going to get a lighter version of that. That's the beauty, is you can customize it when you get a new student who jumps in midstream into a semester. So anyways, hey, you can make mastery learning a reality one day at a time. It works. I'm seeing it work. I'm so confident that this is the way out to teach, the way to teach out of the pandemic, through the pandemic, post-pandemic. I know we're in the middle of just a mess right now in the world of education, but we've got kids who are struggling, and you've got kids who are struggling in your class, and you need help. I need help. And I do believe that mastery is the way to really help prepare students for the future that they need to be in the world of education. Hey, John Bergman out.